Welcome, and thanks for coming. I'm Matt Sigelman. I'm the CEO of Burning Glass Technologies, and it's a pleasure to meet you if I haven't met you before. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about what we've learned tracking the job market and delivering some of those insights to our clients. The fact that the job market is broken is not news to anybody. And the impacts that that has, whether it be to workers, whether it be to education institutions and learning providers, whether it is to employers and their inability to find talent, are legion and well documented, and we all know them and we feel them intensely. When we look at what's going on, what we see is that these people of all parties in the job market are essentially groping to find one another, groping to find where opportunity lies. Burning Glass collects about 3.5 million jobs a day. We have a current and historical database of about close to 1 billion job postings. We touch about 250 million resumes a year. And what we've learned doing that is that part of the reason why for this dysfunction, part of the reason why people can't find each other in the job market is that despite what the name might imply, the job market isn't actually about jobs. The job market is about skills. Jobs have a genome. Jobs are comprised of sets of skills that employers ask for. Those skills form a fingerprint that describe what jobs are about. When we think about how we can make sure that the world of learning and education can serve that genome, as that genome evolves and mutates and changes rapidly, we'll talk about some of that over the course of this time together. Part of that is making sure that we understand that the role of education and learning is in developing skills, and how do we then titrate those skills accordingly. Let me talk more specifically. I shared with you a minute ago about some of the power of the data that we have. Some of what we do is, of course, collecting data, but much more of the value that we render comes on top of that. How we structure the data that we get, how we then translate all of that data about the job market to a common language so we know the difference between an associate at Goldman Sachs and an associate at Walmart. And then map it to a set of taxonomies that essentially provide us the ability to see writ large what's going on in the market. What are the jobs that are trending? What are the skills that are proving to be hard to fill? What are the skills that are proving to be disruptive? It takes a lot of work to do that. I'm proud of the team that Burning Glass brings together, and that team comes together both in terms of our expertise in data science, but also in our expertise around the specific domains where we solve problems, one of those being in human capital management and the other being around the world of learning and education. So when we look at those specific markets, Burning Glass is dedicated to providing very specific insights, to making specific, actionable products that help people make better decisions, that help people plan. We go back to the notion that people can't connect in the job market because they don't see one another. They need to be able to plan more effectively. So for higher education institutions, we provide them with dashboards that help them see where the job market is, that help them identify academic programs that they need to start. We also provide them with advising applications and with career pathway applications that they can put in front of students that help them articulate the value of what they offer to students and that helps keep students on track. In the world of human capital management, increasingly our customers are coming to us for dashboards that help them essentially provide the radar of what's flying at them. If you're a company, what are the skills that are going to upend your apple cart? What are the skills that are already proving hard to fill? What are the skills that are going to prove harder to fill over time? How can you identify what your jobs really are about and how they're changing, and how can you map them to the world? And so a set of taxonomies that our clients are licensing from us that allow them to do that. And a set of career pathway maps or supply chain maps that allow them to look at that genome of a given job that they're struggling to fill and identify what are jobs with similar genomes. What are the arbitrage opportunities, again, that we'll talk about in a minute. We're proud to serve companies across that spectrum, in education, in workforce, but also we're proud of the service that we do to the public sector, to quite a broad range of public agencies, not only in the US, but overseas, and to a broad body of, and growing body of policy organizations as well. I don't want to go through all of these, but just thought I'd call out a couple of the ways that our clients are leveraging our solutions to good effect. These are companies like the University of Phoenix or Cengage, who are, and a range of private institutions, nonprofit institutions, who are leveraging our data to make the case to students about what it is, why it is that their programs are relevant into their careers, with significant impacts in terms of conversion. Or institutions like Northeastern University, which has literally created 35 new programs that are very closely titrated to the market, that are closely aligned to very specific market opportunities, and the result has grown their graduate program revenue by about a 10-fold factor. Organizations like Accenture, which has leveraged burning glass data to completely redefine their job and skill landscape globally, and to track the emerging skills that they need to plan for, that they need to develop the bench for. I could go through, and I would love to share with you more about the kind of work that we're doing for our clients, and specifically how our products and how our data are driving that impact. But what I thought would be even more impactful would be to talk about the kind of insights that these data are providing to our clients. And across the market, across all the jobs that we track, one of the most important and powerful trends that we're seeing is that jobs are coming together and combining. I mentioned a few minutes ago that jobs have a genome, and that genome is increasingly mutating. Jobs are having sex. Some of that's driven by technology. We have spans of technology, coding skills, data skills, design skills that are infusing jobs and increasingly changing the nature of jobs and changing what kind of jobs those show up in. This is fundamentally different from the way the job market has worked, and it's different from the way the world of higher education has aligned itself. And this has very significant implications for how, for the kind of success that higher education can have, for the challenges it faces, and for the opportunities they confront. Here's a classic job, a welder. Right? If you look at most of the skills on that list, they are welding skills, go figure. Now look at a job for a data scientist. You have a set of business skills because increasingly you have to understand the data and that you're analyzing, put it in a business context. You've got data visualization skills. You've got data skills. You even have to have programming skills to be able to access the data. Notice, by the way, that the welding jobs are growing about 6% over the last 5 years, cumulatively, versus a more than 4-fold increase in demand for these kinds of jobs. And there are many other examples, mobile app developers, digital marketing people, and the like. Here's another manifestation of this. You look at all jobs that are out there and you array them according to how much they earn. That top quartile, the ones on the bar on the far right, you look at whether coding skills are actually where they're required. Almost 50% of jobs in the top quartile now are in occupations where a good number of postings require coding skills. That doesn't mean these are tech jobs. They are coding jobs. These are life science jobs. These are financial services jobs. They're marketing jobs where people are being asked to be able to code. And to put it in perspective, top quartile earnings sounds kind of highfalutin. It means you make more than $55,000 a year. So to make sure that students and learners have a chance of a well-paying career in the 21st century, increasingly they need to be able to absorb and come market ready with these kinds of skills. Now, if we're always trying to catch up with the job market, we are always behind, and so it becomes really important to be able to track which skills are starting to emerge, where the market is going, so we can plan for it accordingly. And the good news is that our clients leverage our data to do exactly that. Here's a bunch of different frames that show some of the ways that you can see where the puck is going, all the way to a set of projections that with about 94% accuracy tell you how skills are going to move a couple of years out. Here's another way that you can look. You can actually, our data expose the bellwethers in the market. You're seeing here is two companies, two automotive companies that hire a lot of mechanical engineers. No surprise there. On the right, you're seeing how GM thinks about mechanical engineers. And on the left, you're seeing how Tesla thinks about its mechanical engineers. And the jobs couldn't be more different. On the right, you're seeing things like systems engineering, even Microsoft Excel. On the left, you're seeing all sorts of simulations and design and product development and product design skills. So if you're trying to think about how you would develop a program for mechanical engineers, you can tell which one you would plan around. So that talks to and opens up a set of opportunities for higher education. First of all, as we think about where higher education plays, it becomes important to remember that yes, making sure that people can acquire those sets of technical skills, those data skills, those coding skills, is really important. But the fundamental framework of higher education is not defective, but rather strong. Even in jobs in data science, you'll see that data science jobs are 50% more likely, not less, to require creativity skills, 50% more likely, not less, to require teamwork skills, 50% more likely, not less, to require problem-solving skills, writing skills, research skills, the list goes on. So there's a fundamental core that's critical for people to be able to exercise skills in the 21st century. That also suggests that the solution here is not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are sets of skills, discrete skills, that can be added onto traditional programs of study that open up broad universes of opportunity. For example, acquiring graphic design skills for a liberal arts major unlocks about 135,000 jobs a year that they wouldn't have otherwise qualified for, and increases the salary that they're likely to make by about $9,000. So providing that map, that specific instruction of what are those last mile skills, is increasingly some of the ways that our clients are leveraging our data within their applications. Here's another example of that. If you are a psych major, you can expect to make $42,000 a year. Now, people give psych majors all sorts of bad advice. Well, go get a marketing certification. You can see here that psych people with marketing certifications actually make less, not more. On the other hand, if you were involved in some statistical experiments and you learned SPSS or SAS or R, you're making $68,000 a year. So if you were a psych major, if you have a kid who's a psych major, I bet you'd want to make sure you got this memo. With this also, at the same time that we look at standard programs and how standard programs can keep up and make themselves more competitive, it's important to realize that some of the biggest opportunities are for programs that are most closely aligned with the market. And so many of the people who leverage our data, from a few hundred community colleges to a growing array of providers in the online learning ecosystem, the General Assemblies and the edXs and the Coursera's of the world, leverage our data in order to serve working learners. I mentioned before that employers are increasingly leveraging burning glass data to be able to identify opportunities for arbitrage in their workforce. Learning is that unique opportunity that people have to arbitrage in themselves, that employers have to arbitrage in their people. A graphic designer with standard vanilla Adobe Suite skills makes $54,000 a year. A graphic designer who has front-end web development skills gets paid $75,000 a year. Does not cost $21,000 or $22,000 to learn front-end web development. It doesn't cost $21,000 to teach front-end web development to your employees. And so this starts to unlock a whole array of new opportunities. The universe of skills is big. And so when we think about where do these opportunities have the greatest scale? It's important to be able to have a framework for that, to be able to identify the sets of skills that represent significant pain points for employers and opportunities for workers and learners. And so we think about defining a set of skills which we call disruptive skills. And for us, disruptive skills are those skills that are already hard to fill and are also growing really fast. Those are jobs that are already creating a lot of pain, and they're going to get more painful. So when you look at that top right quadrant, that surfaces a set of opportunities for new program development, be it degreed programs or non-degreed programs, be it them titrated around jobs or oriented around specific skills. What's most fascinating about this is here you're looking at a universe of just data science skills. So data science skills overall, we were just talking about, they're growing fourfold just in the space of 5 years. Some data science skills of that same 5-year period have grown 25-fold. And so in that high growth area, you would think, well, it's all a big opportunity area. Not so. It turns out that even in a fast growth area like that, not all skills are created equal. And you can see a set of skills which significantly differentiate themselves in terms of their potential for being disruptive. That's where you want to build. At the same time, it becomes really important to be able to articulate to learners where these additional skills take them. We all use Waze. And Waze is so important because it is adaptive to what's going on in the market. The big jump that Waze represented over typical mapping applications was it wasn't a fixed map. As the traffic changes the directions that it gives you. In the same way as the job market is a tremendously dynamic force, and as the job market changes, it's important for us to be able to reorient ourselves. And it's important to be able to understand how specific skills unlock specific opportunities over time. Somebody who is, this particular map is of the health IT spectrum. So somebody who's a health information clerk making one salary can acquire a set of skills, a set of certifications, and move up a ladder and keep going from there. And some of these get to be quite complex. And so we deliver a set of applications that help people navigate, whether they be inside the walls of a company or whether they be students trying to identify the next step within their careers or the right entry point into their careers. Traffic is local. You wouldn't navigate yourself based upon the traffic conditions in Las Vegas when you're in Salt Lake City. And in the same way, we know that all jobs are local as well. And so learning has to be too. This is an example of marketing manager jobs in the 2 cities with the highest demand for marketing managers. You would expect when cities that have as much demand as Chicago and San Jose have, the jobs would be pretty much the same. But instead, here again, you can see that the jobs couldn't be more different. In San Jose, those jobs, not surprisingly, in Silicon Valley, thinks about marketing managers. They're really thinking about product marketing. Thinking of product marketing, product development, product management. In Chicago, they're thinking about managing marketing budgets, project management, even, again, Microsoft Office skills being premium in that market. So when we develop programs, they have to be oriented toward the kinds of jobs that people are going to get, and working learners traffic in local markets. I want to leave off with this as well, because we talked over the last 20 minutes we've been together, talking about the notion of a genome to jobs. Talked about how jobs, underlying jobs, is skills. And when you understand the skills of a job, you can understand what jobs, what talent pools, what jobs, what skills relate. And that's how you can start to develop some of those pathways, some of those maps, some of those supply chains for employers. We talked about how that has significant opportunity from an arbitrage perspective, but it also has significant opportunity within it. to drive greater diversity in the workforce. Here's a good example. Mobile app developers, which are themselves one of these hybrid jobs that we were talking about before, are only 9% women. Web designers on the other side of this spectrum, a very different job, 52% women. It's a different job, but some of the genome, a non-trivial part of the genome, is the same. And so you can map very clear and distinct steps from a web designer to a web developer, which, by the way, is only 21% women, and from a web developer to a mobile app designer. And so what we're seeing here is the opportunity to start to align learning in ways that drive not only more opportunity, but more equity in the workforce. And you can see specifically, as people make those steps, there are specific prescriptions that you write for what learning people need to do. It's genetic medicine meets the world of learning, meets the world of workforce. All of this represents a lot of challenge. But that challenge is surmountable. And that challenge actually carries with it a good amount of opportunity. When we can start to align the world of learning with the world of work, when we can start to align the world of learning with the world of skills, we can unlock tremendous opportunity. And Burning Glass is so proud to be tapping that today. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. There's a microphone in the back. Please.
Thanks for that. It looks great. Just wondering, because you start with the advertised data, do you have a way to supplement the more creative industries and entrepreneurship that might not get represented in the ads?
So it actually turns out that job postings tend to be quite representative of most professional fields, including the creative industry. In fact, one of the things that's been fascinating to look at in the creative industry has been the role of internships within that market. So it turns out that about 25% of all job postings in the creative industry are internships. So it has a really interesting dynamics, not only for tracking how people acquire or entry into the creative fields, but it also maps to the increasing role that internships are playing in the market. One of the things I would also sort of point out there is what we've been seeing, we track demand not only for technical skills, but also for creative skills, for soft skills, things like creativity. And so to some extent, what we're finding is that, again, these are not either or. So when you track the demand for creative skills, increasingly what we're finding is they're manifesting in jobs like those data science jobs, design skills likewise. And so that's part of the way in which the market is hybridizing.
Thanks, Matt. What you've demonstrated, I think, is that clear shift and the acceleration of that shift in the fluidity of the way in which the job market is changing, and the lag with education programs delivering on the requirements for those jobs. Do you see that rate of change accelerating greater, so that you get to a point where universities, typically with their very, very long processes for course development and change, can't keep up with that rapid change in the job market?
So the pace is accelerating, and that pace is scary at some levels. So talking before about those data science jobs that are growing fourfold, at the same time I mentioned that demand for data visualization skills has been growing 25-fold. So you're right, at some level it's impossible to keep up, even if you had been smart enough to sort of have or had enough foresight to have those data science programs 5 years ago. They would be teaching the wrong sets of skills today. What that says is that not that universities need to throw up their hands and surrender. What it says is that universities have to rethink the structure of their education. Something like a third of all educational institutions have lifelong learning as part of their mission statements. But so few of them can actually point to real success that they've had in doing that. And I think when we start to think about a degree as providing a structure and then providing university as a repository for skill development over time, that's going to be a very successful model and unlock all sorts of new opportunity that doesn't exist for universities today. I think that's all the time we have, all the questions we have time for. Really enjoyed this and be glad to take your questions afterwards. Thank you so much.